As I said, at the U.S. Capitol, Tarek's going to pull a shot. That's a live look in Washington, D.C. tonight. And all the lawmakers have gone home for the weekend. Hopefully they were able to get a flight after finally reopening the government. And 42 million people who were waiting on SNAP benefits to be funded are finally starting to get their checks. And as we said, the airports starting to work, and furloughed workers going back and getting paid. And some of those airport workers getting about 70% of their pay today. So everybody was hopeful this would happen after the government being closed for more than 40 days. Now the debate switches to health care premiums between Republicans and Democrats, and let's hope they can come up with a plan sooner rather than later, because we don't want to be faced with this again. Let's go to President Trump. Here's a live picture. It's not live. It happened just about 30 minutes ago. President Trump getting off Marine One there, about to get on Air Force One because he is headed to Mar-a-Lago for the weekend. So I guess a little rest and relaxation after he signed the bill to reopen the government this week. But you know President Trump, and we follow him pretty closely here at Fox 5 in New York City. I have to tell you, we will probably hear all about from him on Truth Social this weekend for sure. So that is the president making his way to Air Force One this evening. He had an event with the First Lady earlier this week aimed at helping foster children. And there he goes up the steps. You know, it never gets old, I got to tell you. It's always impressive to see anyone whose office in the executive office there as President of the United States boarding the plane. And usually right when they get to the top, they turn around and wave to anyone who might be here before he goes. And I always like to watch that, right? Who doesn't? There you go. All right, he's off to Florida, back to work probably, tomorrow morning, I would guess. Anyway, let's get to some of our headlines that I'm going to actually get to in just a minute. But first, I want to talk to you guys about a story that's coming up, a trial that got national headlines. Luigi Mangione's trial or case is set to get going December 1st. And you, of course, will recall Luigi Mangione. He will be back inside a Manhattan courtroom in just a matter of weeks on the state charges that he's facing. That is separate from the federal charges, which carry the possibility of the death penalty. All this for the execution-style killing of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Midtown Manhattan. Now, the case is already encountering a number of legal challenges from the defense team. Mangione is still waiting to review the evidence against him on a laptop computer before an important hearing in his state murder case. The 27-year-old is being held at the Metropolitan Detention Center, a federal jail in Brooklyn, since he was arrested December of 2024. You'll remember after that murder happened, Mangione was on the run. He was picked up in Pennsylvania at a McDonald's. He has pled not guilty to these charges. A judge did approve the defense's request for a laptop back in August, but getting it into Mangione's hands has been slow because of modifications required to prevent misuse and the volume of evidence. But he saved it. Now, the Manhattan DA's office, which is, of course, prosecuting the state case, didn't want him to have this laptop. Federal prosecutors didn't take a position. But, the attorneys I talked to so far about this case telling me that there is going to be a lot of motions, a lot of back and forth, specifically as it relates to evidence in this case and disputing whether or not it should be admitted for trial. Joining me now is an attorney extraordinaire, Michael Farkas. Thank you so much. Tell our viewers where you are and a little bit about your background.
Yes, thank you, Sharon. Thank you for having me. So I'm a former homicide prosecutor in New York City and a longtime criminal defense attorney here, and I'm coming to you live from my home office in Brooklyn, New York.
Excellent. We love a real New Yorker on this Friday night as we get into the weekend. So let's start by telling people about this case. I mean, sadly, there's a lot of violent murder cases that take over the national discussion and headlines, and people can get them confused. Walk us back what Luigi Mangione is being accused of.
Well, it's hard to believe that it's almost a year ago, right? This was in every headline for a very long time. December 4th of 2024, as I believe, when the shocking news broke that an execution-style shooting and killing had occurred in New York City, and not just of anyone, but of a high-profile CEO of United Healthcare, Brian Thompson. A chilling scene of a figure.
Yeah, I believe we have some surveillance video of that murder.
Right. It's ingrained in many memories, including mine. You're just kind of basically walking up and just killing him execution style. And then there was that very dramatic investigation and manhunt for the alleged killer, leading to an arrest of Luigi Mangione, I think 5 days later in a McDonald's in Pennsylvania, about 230 or so miles away.
So, and one of the motives that is being investigated is, was he against the healthcare industry as a whole? And was that a possible motivation for his alleged murder of Brian Thompson? And that's certainly, as an attorney, anytime you have a high profile case like that, that's got to weigh into if you're either on either side of this. How do you factor that in?
Right. Certainly, this is something that every prosecutor wants, and it's really what juries want to hear, even though motive is not an element to any crime. There's no requirement to prove motive, but when you have it, it is very, very strong evidence. And here, the evidence of motive is pretty compelling. There was, for lack of a better term, a manifesto found on Luigi's person in his backpack, I believe, including a note that essentially, according to prosecutors, admitted his role in the crime. I think he said something to the effect of, to the feds, I'm going to make it easy on you. You don't have to work too hard. And he pretty much admitted it. And there was a long list of grievances about the healthcare industry and how, they have, and this is why he's become sort of kind of to me, a weird cause celeb among opponents of the insurance industry. Somebody who's actually accused of point blank murder. But that is, that has become the reason for such intense public scrutiny of the case. The evidence seems pretty damning on paper, right? The shell casings, which had, insurance industry lingo etched on them, deny, defend, depose, or whatever. The matching the gun that was allegedly found on his person, him using fake identities and fake identification to travel and basically surveil the target for days and then travel around in a mask for days on end, allegedly to get away with it and to keep his identity secret. It has the kind of details that you would expect to read in a John Grisham novel.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah. And what about, can you break down the state and the federal charges and explain to us how can he be charged at the same time with both?
Right, so he can't be charged with the exact same crimes with both. In Manhattan, so in the state case, he was originally charged with basically terroristic assault charges, which were dismissed, and the typical murder charges that you would expect when one person's accused of murdering someone else. The federal charges involve essentially stalking the target and weapons charge. So they're not the same charges, or there would be a double jeopardy issue. They made motions on this and lost, I believe.
And the federal case is a death penalty case, right? Luigi Mangione could possibly be put to death. Is that right?
Yes, and the Attorney General has made clear that they are seeking or wish to seek the death penalty, and wish to do so in any case where it appears warranted and possible to do. So they've come out very strongly on that subject.
I wanted to ask you about the evidence in this case, because even though we have a date of December 1st, that's really just the very, very beginning. Lawyers on both sides already filing lots of motions. And if you're the defense team, it seems like you are trying to get as much, if not the entire case, as many of pieces of damning evidence dismissed as possible before this case officially goes to trial. Can you walk me through some of the pieces of evidence that are in contention right now?
Sure. Luigi Mangione's attorneys are well known. They do not miss anything, and they are going to challenge every possible aspect of the evidence that they can. Right now, they're making exactly the motions that one would expect. They're moving to dismiss. They're moving to suppress evidence as a result of unlawful searches and seizures, such as the backpack and the contents of the backpack, the gun that was allegedly found, the manifesto that was allegedly found. They're also challenging the district attorney's certification that they've complied with all of their discovery obligations, which the DA, the district attorney in Manhattan, is required to do in any criminal case. And if they don't, they face a wide range of potential sanctions. In the most extreme circumstances, it could be dismissal of charges or preclusion, not being able to use certain bits of evidence that were not properly disclosed. Here, there is a dispute over whether the DA properly or even at all disclosed documentary evidence about Luigi's mother supposedly telling law enforcement that she could see her son doing something like this. This was stated in public by the chief of detectives for the NYPD and oft-cited by every media outlet, and yet the defense is saying there's been nothing disclosed to them in the discovery material about it, which would be a violation of their obligation. So it remains to be seen if any of these motions will be successful. Usually they're not, but the defense has to make them and preserve every argument they can, especially in the event that their client is convicted, and then there's an appeal.
And if that were to be thrown out, that's not the worst of the evidence against Mangione, but it certainly would be one step. Talk to me about how significant it is that this defendant has not been able to review the evidence against him on a laptop for, I guess, bureaucratic reasons or security reasons or whatever. And the first appearance here, as this case moves forward, is just a few weeks away.
Yeah, it's not so far down in the process, and we're not on the eve of trial. So the prejudice to Mr. Mangione at this time, I would not characterize as extreme. I don't see any motions being granted or charges being dismissed based on this, like you aptly said, a bureaucratic and security-related reason. Eventually, he will be able to review the evidence on the laptop. They'll get there, but understandably, it's not so easy. It's not like he's sitting at home and he can just fire up a laptop and see all the evidence. You can imagine that there are protocols to allowing an inmate in a federal detention facility to have a device such as a laptop.
And also there was this issue as part of the evidence that it could be a violation of HIPAA laws, that his personal medical or mental health information could not be released. Can you talk a little bit about that? If you're not familiar, that's okay. I was just wondering.
No, in the civil and regulatory context, anyone has a right to the privacy of their health information, and it can't be disclosed without a release. This is what most people would have heard of a HIPAA release in order to have that done. So if there were unauthorized disclosures of healthcare information by healthcare providers or any other organizations, it's arguable that would translate into any criminal law context that would result in the suppression of any type of evidence in that regard. I don't really think that we've seen anything in the criminal law context with the criminal cases that are really directly related to HIPAA.
So I also wanted to ask you about one of the reasons we're even talking about this. I mean, this guy is like, I don't know, not as famous as P. Diddy, okay, but he generated a lot of attention. People writing him love letters in jail, describing him, as you mentioned, in a very flattering way, considering what he's accused of. I mean, I guess I could equate it to the Menendez brothers or something along those lines. How does that publicity factor in? And if give me it from both the prosecutor's side and the defense side, do you try to get a change of venue, or is there no venue with which he could get a fair trial? And how does the publicity, how do you work it to your advantage, one side or the other?
Right, so from the defense perspective, the approach is clear. They will cite every bit of media coverage, especially the media coverage by elected officials and government officials, really saying that the evidence is incontroverted, guilt is already a foregone conclusion, you should lock him up, throw away the key, or worse, put him to death, and cite that as examples of how he cannot possibly get a fair trial anywhere in the United States. That's what they're going to pound every day in court, and again, they're creating an appeal issue in the event he's convicted. From the prosecution side, this is a mixed bag. On the one hand, you've got clear evidence of a premeditated, cold, hard murder. which really shouldn't garner anyone any sympathy. But on the other hand, you have these legions of people who are idolizing Luigi Mangione as some kind of folk hero. So when it comes down to it, the prosecutors play this down the middle. When they pick a jury, they're adept at rooting out whether anyone has an agenda or an axe to grind, or a prejudicial view of the case from the media. Nothing's perfect. Sometimes someone can speak on the jury who does, but especially the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, they are used to cases of this publicity level and figuring it out.
Yeah, and there's also the issue of security. I don't know where I know where he's being held. I don't know if he's had to have been put into solitary confinement or anything like that to protect him from the general population. Because it does seem like anytime an inmate has this much celebrity surrounding them, it becomes a security risk for them individually.
Well, this is actually where it gets ironic, because you're exactly right. That's what usually does happen and what usually is needed. But in Luigi Mangione's case, he's become what has been termed an ambassador in the Metropolitan Detention Complex. Apparently he's become very popular. He's become known as the guy who is helping new inmates to acclimate to their surroundings. He's very popular. Sounds like he's the last person who needs extra security, and it's just another thing to add to that list of strange happenings in the Luigi Mangione case.
Yeah, it's wild. As we wrap this up, I just want to ask you to tell our viewers, what is the timeline we can expect with this? When would we actually start to see a jury being seated or this start to go to trial? How long does all of this take?
Right, so it appears that we are in deep motion practice now. We've got hearings scheduled on the defense motions to dismiss. These are pretty complex motions. They take quite a long time. We could be looking at months. I don't quite know if a trial date has been set. I may actually be wrong about that. But I would not be surprised if we were not looking at a trial until the middle or maybe the fall of next year. Again, don't quote me on that.
Awesome. Michael Farkas, thank you so much for joining us from Brooklyn, New York tonight in our Fox 5 studio here on the Upper East Side. Thank you so much. We'll be checking back in with you as this trial progresses, as the case progresses, both state and federal charges, because it will certainly be generating so much attention, especially, considering how much it's already gotten.
Yes, thank you so much for having me.
All right, hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much. Well, we still have so much more to get to tonight, and we want to thank you for joining us tonight, either on the Fox Local app or streaming with us on the Fox 5 NY YouTube channel. As I said, we were going to try to give you a 360 around-the-clock view of our newsroom and how we get things done. So we'll be doing that throughout. And Brendan over there, he's going to wave. He's dismissed. He's saying goodbye to our guest. But he's also following your comments on YouTube. So if you have any comments, what you'd like to see, what you have seen, if you have any questions, we'll try to answer them in real time. And we appreciate you joining us tonight. Much more coming up. We have local headlines. We're going to tell you where Mayor Adams is tonight and why he and the mayor-elect, well, they don't seem as friendly as they used to be. Or maybe they were never friendly. It's not clear. I'll tell you all about that in just 2 minutes. Keep it right here. And welcome back to Newsroom Live. It is Friday night. Look at that. They're skating. They're getting ready for the holiday. We haven't even had, that looks like Bryant Park to me. Unless I'm wrong and it's Union Square. Someone will tell me. I think Bryant Park. Yeah, that you skate there. Anyway, and you can see the lights on the trees. New York City getting ready for the holiday season, even though we haven't had Thanksgiving yet. Everybody's always in a rush here. We're showing you a little behind the scenes here, as we've been doing throughout our broadcast here as we stream live for you on the Fox Local app and on YouTube, Fox 5 NY. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Sharon Crowley. Thank you very much. We are monitoring your comments if you want to make any on our YouTube app. Jonah has stepped in for Brendan, and he's going to be reading me what you say. So say only nice things. Thank you so much. But if you have a question, we'll try to answer those too. Listen, I promised we'd get to some headlines and tell you where your mayor is at. That's right. Mayor Adams is on his way to Israel. He is meeting with Bibi Netanyahu. He's supposed to be back sometime next week. And speaking of the Prime Minister of Israel, Mayor Adams has invited him to Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani's inauguration on January 1st. It's an interesting invite, considering that Zoran Mamdani didn't have the best relationship with Netanyahu. In fact, has said publicly he wanted to have him arrested if he came to New York City. So we're going to have much more on that back and forth coming up on the Fox 5 10 o'clock news tonight. And you'll get to see that right after the game. But first, our Morgan Mackay sat down with Mamdani for an exclusive interview on Politics Unusual, which you can also watch in its entirety on our YouTube channel. And one of the issues that's being discussed, so this week, Mamdani and Kathy Hochul, Governor Kathy Hochul, sat down together to talk about their issues that a lot of campaign promises that Mamdani made, including free childcare, free and fast buses, free groceries in some of the neediest neighborhoods, and he was going to pay for that by raising the tax on the wealthiest New Yorkers, on millionaires, and also increasing the property taxes to match those of New Jersey, corporate taxes, I should say, excuse me. Well, all that, of course, requires Albany's help and the governor's help. And the hitch to this is that Governor Hochul is running for re-election in 2026. So what we heard from him today is that free child care plan, he says Hochul's on board. They had a meeting, as I said. I think we have a picture of their meeting earlier this week. And he said that, there they are, Governor Hochul told Mamdani that we can do that child care thing, but let's do it in 2027. Now, if you read the tea leaves, as I like to do, you will know that would be if she was re-elected. So it sounds like Kathy Hochul's not about to campaign on raising taxes, which is not a big surprise when it comes to politics. So our Morgan Mackay did ask Mamdani about this very issue. And Tarek, let's play it down for our viewers.
Now, also in your
in
your conversation with Hochul, you guys were discussing your child care plan, your free child care plan, and it seems like you guys were discussing something to be rolled out in fiscal year 2027. Why 2027?
So the governor has said that 2026 is the year of childcare. And we are currently in fiscal year 2026. We're going into fiscal year 2027. And we want to continue to deliver on the agenda that we ran on. And I'm excited when we're speaking with the governor, because there's a recognition from both of us on the need for universal childcare and the fact that the absence of it is costing New Yorkers $22,500 a year on average. There are some New Yorkers paying more than that. And just yesterday, I was speaking with childcare providers, and they were telling me how difficult the city has often made it for them to just do their jobs, and how that's pushing those same New Yorkers out of the city. I mean, if you look at the population of the city, 14% of New Yorkers are families with young children. But if you look at the population of those leaving New York City, 30% of them are families with young children, which shows that we are driving these families out of the city, and we need to start to make this the most affordable place to raise your kids.
Your plan to pay for the universal child care would be to tax millionaires and corporations, but Governor Hochul has said that she doesn't want to do that in an election year next year. So what are you guys discussing in terms of where this revenue is going to come from?
You know, I've said time and again that I think these are the two most straightforward ways to raise this revenue. One would increase personal income taxes by 2% on the top 1%. New Yorkers would make $1 million a year or more, like you said. The other would be to raise the top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey. And this together would raise $9 billion. Internal government reforms would raise an extra $1 billion. This would pay for the economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city for exactly the things that we were just talking about. I've also said that if there are additional or alternate revenue sources that would pay for the same things, we would embrace them by all means, because the most important thing is funding these things. And I think with the governor, there's a clear alignment of the importance of delivering on universal child care and on an affordability agenda. And now the work begins, even before we've been sworn in, on lining out when, how, but we always know it's for who, which is New Yorkers.
All right, Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani joining our Morgan McKay for Politics Unusual, which you can watch every Friday. And we look forward to following his, getting him sworn in and his inauguration on January 1st. We'll be following every step of his new journey for you. And apparently there are a lot of people that want to work for him. They've gotten his administration that will be forming, got some 50,000 people already applied for jobs to work for him. So that's got to be make him feel pretty good. And he's already tapped a couple of people for his cabinet. So we'll see how it goes, and we'll see if the Prime Minister of Israel actually does show up at his inauguration. We have so much more to get to tonight, so we hope you keep it right here. We're going to have an update live from Jamaica, which you know was just devastated by Hurricane Melissa, and the folks there are still trying to recover from it. We're going to have a live report there in just 2 minutes. If you keep it right here with us, we're going to take another quick break, and we'll be right back. And welcome back to Newsroom Live. You know this is one of my favorite pictures of the Statue of Liberty on this Friday night as we get ready to head into the weekend. I'm Sharon Crowley. Thanks for joining us. I'm here with Tarek and Jonah, and you're looking at Newsroom Live. We can turn and wave too. And Tarek's going to show you a new trick. Don't go too fast. All right, there's Brendan over there. Running over there, hiding. Our desk assistants are hiding back there. Astra's over there too. And where's our executive producer? That brings me to your YouTube comments. We appreciate them. And who do we have? We have Nelsie has a comment. She wanted to know what time we go home. Well, the truth of the matter is We never really go home at Fox 5. I do go home after my shift, but we are a 24/7 news operation. If we're not broadcasting, we're streaming, and most of the time we're doing both. We start at 4 in the morning on Good Day New York, and then we go right into the noon show and right into the 4, 5, 6, 7, and then we stream from 7 to 9, then the 10 o'clock news, then it's Good Night New York. So, you know, and everything can be found on our YouTube page or on the Fox Local app, and we so appreciate you watching. And if you have any other comments or questions, we'll be dipping in because Jonah is very busy reading what you have to say and then asking me your questions. So thank you. But I want to get to a really serious story and one that we've been working on throughout the last couple of weeks. It might be hard for you to understand when you look out at the great fall weather we have here in New York City tonight, but the remnants and the devastation from Hurricane Melissa still being felt. As you can see there, those are some pictures for when it hit. Really devastated the island of Jamaica, a place so many New Yorkers go to vacation and have second homes and have family there. We have such a large Jamaican community here, and you can just see the wrath that when Melissa hit, it was just awful and just devastating, especially, and they are still trying to get help. So I'm going to bring in right now someone who knows this all too well, Nikki Z. She is a radio and media host and knows everything, and she tonight is live in Jamaica. So first of all, thank you so much for joining us live tonight from Jamaica. Tell people where you are. It looks like are you in your car? And what part of Jamaica are you in? And we've got some of the pictures you sent to us, so talk to us about what the status is now.
Absolutely. I'm still in Westmoreland, the border of St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. So
the
it's
hardest
one of the
hit area, right?
Yeah. Well, I would say not compared to Black River, which you also have videos of right now. About 90% of the homes in Black River were pretty much just, most of them.
Put those pictures up, Tarek. There we go. That's what she's talking about. Just keep going, Nikki. I'm sure the buffering. She's in Jamaica, and the obviously the internet is a bit spotty there, but this is what she was talking about. Do you want to see if we can get her back there, Jonah? She may have to hang up and dial back in. But anyway, you can see what she's talking about. And part of the problem is that so many people aren't. Oh, there you are. You're back with us. I'll let you take it away, Nikki. Go ahead. We were just looking at some of those pictures. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just saying I'm in Whitehall, Westmoreland, the border of St. Elizabeth and Westmoreland. So it's right where it was heavily impacted. But we can definitely say more people were even impacted in Black River. We're talking 90% of the homes there. A lot of people in the hills are still waiting to get any kind of care package because they all have been reporting that a lot of people on the main are getting the packages, but by the time the supply trucks reach them, there's really nothing left for those on the hill. So yeah, there's still a lot of work to be done, and we're waiting to see what's going to happen now that we're hearing that a lot of the funds have been released for Hurricane Melissa.
What can people do if they're watching these pictures? And I know you're on the ground there trying to help people, but if they can't, it sounds like they won't have electricity for quite some time in some of the hardest hit areas.
Absolutely. What people can do is, if you don't have family, you can reach out to organizations like we spoke of last time. Some of your favorite artists are in the forefront of those, like Sean Paul and the Food for the Poor. Shaggy also, you can follow him and make sure you donate to those key organizations because they are definitely on the ground right now. If you do have relatives in Jamaica, you can try your best to get them supplies that are already on the ground. I see a lot of people trying to ship bottles of water, feminine napkins and things like that. There's a lot of that already here on the island. I don't think we need very many more plastic bottles or anything like that because that's here. But if you want to get the life straw that can go further, we do have people that are working with the fishermen to get to more remote areas so they can use the life straw without that much plastic waste, and it can go a lot further for more families. So that's what we're working on now, just trying to get shelter and trying to get to those people that have not been able to get those care packages due to their location.
Boy, do you have any sense, has the death toll increased since this, because sometimes it doesn't happen in the storm, but in the delay in getting help to people who've been cut off?
Mm-hmm. I have no doubt that that number is going to go up. Right now, I believe it already went up to the number 45. And like I said, we went up in the hill today. We sent you some footage. I didn't even get halfway up the hill. And you can see that nothing has been done up there. And people have said they have seen no sign of help to this point. So they're being exposed to heavy rains. We just had a very heavy rainfall about 2 hours ago. And that was severe rain, not light. It's very hot. So they really need to get these tarps. If that's all they can do for now, container homes, they need to get shelter because they're not getting it right now.
And what about the U.S. government? I mean, certainly the Jamaican government must have reached out to President Trump and his team for assistance.
I'm not sure. We have seen that there are troops on the ground. I can't exactly say what directive they've been given and where they're being directed to. I can just tell you I am here on the ground. I've been staying here. There's no electricity. There's not going to be, they say, until March, but they have moved the timeline up a little bit, but we'll see what happens. But we haven't seen them here. I went through Black River. There were a few JDF troops there, but I didn't see any other activity there. And that really is one of the hardest impacted places. So we're hoping to see even more activity in the upcoming days, not weeks, days, hopefully.
It sounds like a very urgent matter, and almost people have forgotten about Hurricane Melissa and the devastation that it tore through the Caribbean doing.
It's like that because a lot of the island is okay. It's back to business. You know, if you go to Kingston, it's back to business. Mobay did get hit, but it's more like you would say a little slap around compared to where I am and also where Black River is. So it does feel have gone back to business as usual. However, there are many people over here where it cannot get back to business as usual yet. We just set up a young lady who lost her stall so she can start making money back. She was like, this is what I need. I just need to be able to work again. We did that today. We set up another family today with a...
And Nikki, it's just buffering there. Bear with us, our viewers.
That one.
Oh, there you go. Go ahead and repeat that, Nikki. We lost you for a second there.
No, I said, you know, everybody on the ground is just doing whatever they can. With what I'm doing, if you follow me at Nikki Z Live on social, you'll see a young lady just lost her stall. This is how she makes money. She wasn't asking for home goods. She said, could you help me build back my stall so I can go back to selling? You know, we just went up to a family who the house that their elderly grandparents were in is completely gone. So now everybody has to go into this one room that's left. So we left them with a tarp and we're going to bring some supplies to them tomorrow. So we're just doing what we can. And every citizen I've seen here is trying to help each other. And that's all we've been doing. And we just hope help comes a little faster. I know there's red tape. I know they have to work things out. But people here, Black River, Westmoreland, there's a lot of help in the mountains, in the hills. A lot of help is needed.
I can see that, you know, from your pictures. Before we let you go, it does seem like logistics is the issue. You don't need any more bottled water or any more supplies. Like you said, hygiene supplies, food, all that. It's a matter of getting it to those remote places and also construction and rebuilding.
Yes, construction material, pods, container homes, the life straw, because there are a lot of people very isolated. That life straw has been a lifesaver. I'm running out of the ones I brought here. So if anybody has a connection, please send that, because that's 1,000 gallons of water someone, a family, a community can drink from one straw. So that's a very essential key thing. Fishermen materials. The fishermen are out of all the wires they need, the nets they need. Everything for fishermen, and this is a big fisher community, they need those supplies. So that's really, if people are sending things, where they should spend their energy. But water, tons of it in Kingston and Mobay, feminine napkins, diapers, adult diapers, stuff is there. But the other things, we need to get them here logistically to the people so they can get back on their feet and get moving.
Nikki Z, great work you're doing out there, and please keep us updated. And before I let you go, I just want you to remind people how they can help if they're watching you right now.
Yes. Sharon, I love you. You're a hard worker like you know, we women have to do it.
That's
so
true.
Definitely you can follow me at Nikki Z Live, NIKKIZ LIVE on all mediums. Any way you can help, whether you're sending something down or if you send who to direct it to, you can contact us. I'm here working with Warrior King. This is his community as well. So we're helping one by one, bit by bit. Don't try to conquer everything at once. If you can do one by one, bit by bit, this is how we help each other.
Oh, Nikki Z, thank you so much. And,
love you, Sharon.
Love you, and thank you for the hard work that you are doing to save lives and to bring this story to people. We so appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. We won't stop.
All right. Sounds good. We'll check back with you.
Enough love. Next time.
All right. Next time. Till next time. That's great. Listen, if you want to help, certainly you can go to Nikki Z's social media pages and check that out. So, and remember, feel free to comment on our YouTube Fox 5 NY channel, because Jonah is over here monitoring. I'll answer your questions and your comments, and we have so much more coming up. And Natasha Verma's got something very special planned for you coming up tonight at 8 o'clock. But right now, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have the lovely Liv Johnson joining me. She's going to have your weekend forecast. She's going to talk to me about the Space Coast. Yes, that's right. She knows all about it. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Newsroom Live on this Friday night. I'm sure you're thinking about your weekend, and we're glad you decided to spend some of it with us here. Look, they're already ice skating. Isn't that fabulous? That's Bryant Park, I think. Yeah? Thanks. Looks like it. All right, someone will correct me. Maybe they'll correct me in the chat. Already people are, and there's Liv, the beautiful blonde. There she is. We're waving, we're waving. She's going to join you, I promise, Liv Johnson.
Look at the height difference.
The height, I know. I don't think I like that. You know why? Because we're both, what we're not telling people is we're both wearing sneakers. Usually I have some high heels on, but I just couldn't today. Friday. It's better to wear sneakers in a newsroom because we often have to run on a deadline, run up to the studio, run back down to the newsroom, run out to the car and get in a live truck and run. So if you have sneakers on, or run to the subway, which, you know, it's best to have sneakers in case you have to run away from someone or something, which does happen if you live here in New York. And I've lived in New York like 10 years. It seems impossible, but I have. So
wow.
I'm here, yeah. And how long have you been here?
Almost 2.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So, all right, Tarek, you can talk. Tarek says she's got to flip her mic so it actually faces her voice. But people want to, usually I think last night we were on the other side. Must have been I don't think I like being shorter than you. I might have to put you in a chair.
Wait, what? Oh, should I just stop? Is that okay?
Is that good? You can use your voice. Tarek's afraid to talk. It's okay. Oh, there goes our webmaster. She's hiding. She's leaving.
Oh, bye,
Our fearless
Alex.
leader. Goodbye. Anyway, thanks again for being with us. You can see we're getting a little loopy on a Friday, but Liv is going to take it over and tell us what we can expect for the weekend.
Okay, so clear skies tomorrow for, well, honestly, that's kind of misleading that I said that.
Okay.
It starts a little clear in the morning. Then clouds roll in.
All right.
Then rain rolls in.
I think we have a radar map.
Yeah,
or
somewhere.
Well,
if we're not going to be able to see the system on the satellite radar.
Oh, okay.
Because, well, actually, do you see it like up in Canada?
Yeah.
That's kind of where it's coming from. So,
Okay.
anyways, tonight is fine. It's just going to be cool, mainly clear. Not too windy though. It was really windy today.
Yeah.
Yesterday, day before.
That's
Then,
good.
so your Friday night plans are fine. Saturday morning is fine. Saturday afternoon also fine. And we're in the 50s.
Yep.
Saturday and Sunday, so that's good. Then, probably around 7, 8 p.m., that's when we could start seeing rain.
On Saturday night, right?
Saturday night,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
It'll last through the overnight hours. Sunday morning, we're in the clear. And Sunday's actually pretty nice.
All right. Well, I'm looking forward to Sunday because I think I'm going to go see the Radio City Rockettes. It's a New York City tradition.
Yeah.
And I think it'll be fun.
Yeah.
You know, somebody in there.
Yeah.
Have you seen it yet? It's a great
No,
show.
I've seen them on Good Day though.
Oh,
Like
well,
I've been doing Good Day once when they were practicing.
Yes,
And
it's
then once
amazing.
when they actually did it. So I
Yeah.
feel like I at least had a sneak peek.
And it's going to get me in the holiday spirit or whatever. So, you know, we'll see. But yeah, we have a lot going on tonight and a lot planned for our weekend. And when we come back, we're going to take another break. We're going to talk about the Lion King. It is celebrating a big anniversary. So keep it right here. All right, Lady Liberty tonight on this Friday. You're looking at a live picture in New York City tonight. I'm Sharon Crowley, joining you from the Upper East Side, along with Liv Johnson. You can wave, Liv. And yeah, we're about to, that's a big reveal. I just decided to grow a little taller because I was feeling intimidated. So I had to push her down. My young colleague here, I had to push her down. How tall are you, or is that a personal question?
No, it's not personal. I'm 5'11".
You're 5'11". Well,
I'm
I'm
almost 6 feet.
Yeah, I'm 5'5" and 5'5" and like a quarter inch. So yeah, so that would explain
A little
it.
bit of that, yeah.
Well,
Last night I did this with Steve, and he's the only person I've ever been able to like look at eye to eye.
Oh,
while
okay,
we're
he's 6
standing.
feet. Yeah. Okay, good, excellent. Well, we were talking about the weather, but now we're going to talk to you about Broadway. We have some video here because it's a very exciting anniversary of The Lion King, the Tony Award-winning musical. first opened 28 years ago on November 13th, 1997. And since then, there have been 30 global productions seen by over 127 million people. Well, this September, the long-running show played its 11,000th performance. That's a long time, right? Crazy. Only Phantom of the Opera and Chicago have had longer runs on Broadway. Amazing. Now, have you seen The Lion King?
I haven't. I actually haven't been to Broadway.
Not yet? That's okay.
Yeah.
There's still time. I mean, first of all, it takes a little process to figure out how to get the best price on a ticket, whether you want to wait online on TKTS. But this is an amazing, amazing musical, as you can see there. And not surprising why it's so award-winning. But 11,000, that's crazy, because so many shows every year on Broadway, as we know, they open and close in such a short amount of time. But if you haven't been yet, and you said you haven't, it's really, I just saw Hell's Kitchen, the Alicia Keys musical. It's amazing.
Really?
But I feel like I would say that about almost anything that I've seen on Broadway in the past or currently. And I have done it multiple ways. I've gone on the line and waited in line, gone on like a Wednesday or something and waited in the line with some friends. And then other times just said, I just got to buy it. I got to go. I got to see it. So, but since you're working all the time, it's not going to be an option for you. So, you could just maybe watch it on TV or something like that.
No, I mean, I need to go to a show. But what's like a usual price?
It can be a couple $100s depending on where you want to sit. That's the thing. So if you want the better seat in the orchestra, and also if you want a less expensive price, you want to go during a matinee. You don't want to go on a Saturday night or Sunday night because the tickets are going to cost more. And also the lead stars. You look for, a lot of people, like, especially with Hamilton, for example, they wanted to see Lin-Manuel, so they would, pay lots and lots of money to see something like that. So the trick to Broadway is to try to get an unknown show before it becomes a blockbuster hit.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So you got to roll the dice and go see something maybe that nobody's heard of yet, or a newer show. MJ the Musical is really great, about Michael Jackson's movie.
So you go a lot.
I do. I've seen a lot. I really have, as I used to, not to bring up my personal life, but I feel close to our audience. I will say that I used to ask to be taken as a child, since I grew up in the New York City area, both in New Jersey and in Connecticut. I would always ask as a gift to go to a Broadway play for my birthday, and then we went as a family over Christmas. So I saw The King and I saw it all. I had high hopes for my future, but you have me here instead.
Oh, you thought you were going to be on Broadway?
No, I didn't think that, because you have to be able to sing.
Were you a theater kid? You weren't a theater kid?
No. I tried a little Sound of Music. A lot of Catholic school. I think most Catholic school girls were in the Sound of Music. And I have pictures that I will post on social media of me in my nun outfit.
There's a decent amount of theater kids to broadcast journalism pipeline.
Yeah, theater to broadcast. And we have some behind the scenes people that Alexander, our 10 o'clock, and now our special projects executive producer. He's not here now. What's that?
Our commenter says I love The Lion King.
Oh.
See, a lot of people love The Lion King. Yeah. It's a classic that if you haven't seen it, you're going to get another chance, because it's not going away anytime soon, which is great. But we are getting ready to wrap it up, because Natasha Verma is going to join us. She's got a lot happening here. But this was a big week, and I know this isn't your area, Liv, but it is when you're trying to fly somewhere. They reopened the government, and I think we decided that, how we do like winners and losers of the week? For me, that's the winner. Do you have any winner of the week that you think of as you look back on that, besides yourself for working every show all week? You can think about that, but it's true.
I'm loser of the week.
A loser. You're going to, same topic, loser of the weeks. Okay, so I'm going to give him a thumbs up for reopening the government, and Liv is going to give him a thumbs down for keeping it closed, or closing it in the first place some 40 days ago. Pull up the shot there, Tarek, of the U.S. Capitol.
I will say I did finally buy a flight for next weekend.
All right, and you're going to catch it, because the airports are good.
I was
airports
holding
are
off
good.
for a while.
Yeah.
And I was asking you, like, do you think by next weekend?
I know, and
then-
I was saying,
Yeah.
and we've been telling you and reporting for you on Fox 5 that obviously even the Transportation Secretary Duffy said that once these things reopen, it takes days and weeks to really get everybody back up online, get all the air traffic controllers back, all the other furloughed workers back in their positions. They're getting back pay. You know, it takes a little while for the system to get going. So that's why there's still a 6% reduction over 40 airports across the country. So we want to thank you so much for joining. Liv and I are very grateful for sharing
Very
our Friday
grateful.
evening with you. Do you have plans this evening?
I do. It's Bianca's birthday.
Ah, happy birthday, Bianca Peters. She got a tattoo yesterday. It was not a birthday cake, but she and Lou Albanese, and that was yesterday. You can catch that online. It's Kicking and Screaming. Is that what they call it?
Yes, Kicking and Screaming.
Yeah, so Kicking and Screaming is another one of our podcasts with the Beauty and the Beast, as we like to call it, right? And
Yes.
I don't think Lou Albanese would mind telling me
No,
that.
he
but
would say that.
we saw it last night. He teased it the night before. Then he brought his guns out
What'd you
and
think of
shared
it?
it. Well, it was smaller than I thought it was going to be.
And it wasn't an obvious Yankees. And I
No.
get the tattoo artist wanted to be nice since he's a Mets fan, but
Yeah.
that's not the point of the game.
No. And the viewers voted. They spoke and they
Yeah.
said, "Come on," you know. She was brave too. Natasha didn't seem. Nobody was like crying or screaming. I think I would have been crying and screaming.
Well, Bianca has a bunch of tattoos.
All right.
She has like 14, I think, and you can't really see them on air.
Okay.
They're very small, and they're kind of like the there's a name for them.
Ink. Art.
Yeah.
Stick and poke?
Stick and
No,
poke.
not stick and poke. Oh, guys, I don't know. It just looks kind of like it's very casual and small.
All right. Well, we're going to let you guys go. Think about all that. And thank you for joining us. Natasha Verma is up next with all things political and all happenings here in New York City. I'm Sharon Crowley. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Newsroom Live. I'm Natasha Verma. Let's take a live look outside. It is a very cold Friday night. New York City has issued Code Blue, which is an emergency protocol to make sure that those who are homeless are not denied access to shelter tonight just because of how frigid those temperatures are. Later on in this hour, we're going to check in with Liv Johnson for the latest on the forecast and see just how cold it's going to get, even colder over the weekend. But first, let's go over some of our top news. The biggest news right now is that Zohran Mamdani is now the mayor of New York City, mayor-elect, and he went one-on-one for the first time since winning the election with our very own Morgan McKay. So of course we want to know questions about his transition, how he's going to fund a lot of the big campaign promises he made on the trail. And she went one-on-one with him earlier today on her show Politics Unusual, and we do have a clip of that, so let's run that right now.
Joining us now is Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I can only imagine what a whirlwind the past week and a half has been. How are you adjusting? What's it been like?
You know, it has been lovely. It's now been a little more than a week, and it's been a moment to also take in the work that we've been a part of over more than a year in sharing a vision for the city where New Yorkers could do more than just struggle. And to hear the excitement from New Yorkers about a politics that means more than what we've seen, it has meant the world. And we've tried to take the same approach in these last, week and a half, hit the ground running, start to announce our transition team. The day after, we said, these are the 4 incredible co-chairs we have. This is our executive director. And then this week, we announced our first deputy mayor and chief of staff. And we did so about a month earlier than typical administrations because we want this time to be a time where we're preparing. So January 1st is a time that we're actually delivering.
But what's your big conversations like with family, friends? Are you making them all call you mayor-elect already? How's that going?
There's some family members who I don't think are ever going to call me anything else. But I think it is a transition, with many in my life. But it's been so exciting because it's also a moment where the things that we've been talking about are now things that we can actually start to work on. And even just the conversations I've been having with our first deputy mayor, Dean Foulahan, El Bisgard Church, my chief of staff, these are the conversations around childcare, around affordability, whether we're talking about public transit or we're talking about groceries. It comes back to what we're hearing from New Yorkers. And now we can do more than just talk about it. We can actually be about it.
When I first showed up to your press conferences, there was about 3 cameras there at the beginning of this year.
You're being kind. They're probably 2 or 1.
But then, later when I showed up, you were completely mobbed by cameras. It was hard to even get close to put my mic up there. What has it been like to have so much national attention? Because also that comes with that is the national scrutiny. I feel like you've also been put on a platform where there's been just a lot of comments thrown at you over the last several months. How has it been like, and how are you going to handle that when you go into office, all of this national scrutiny?
Well, I think you're being very kind because I remember in the early press conferences, we had our own videographer just to make it look like someone from TV was there. It was just us.
It was very small, yes.
I remember when my good friend Gustavo Rivera endorsed us, our campaign in Albany, we had one reporter from WNYC. And midway through the press conference, a man showed up to the press conference and asked where he could find parking. And we had to take a break from our remarks just to direct him. So that was some of the early days of the campaign. And it's been incredible to see the momentum of this campaign, the interest in this campaign. And I think, as you said, there's oftentimes questions put to me as to what does this mean in a national context? What do I think about things beyond the state? And I try and think of life akin to that New Yorker cover where the world ends at New Jersey, because I think it's time to have a mayor who's focused on the 5 boroughs of the city. And what I've heard from New Yorkers time and time again is there's enough work to do right here. There's enough to think and worry about right here. Let's put that at the heart of what we're doing.
Now, you met with Governor Kathy Hochul for about an hour and a half, and in the meeting, from the readout that I got, you guys discussed how you're going to tackle any attacks from President Donald Trump. What was the conversation like? What did you guys discuss specifically when it comes to protecting the state against potential funding cuts, maybe the president sending the National Guard troops here to the city? What was the conversation like?
One of the first things I shared with the governor in an incredibly productive meeting that we had was that on Veterans Day, I had gone to Volunteers of America. I had gone to meet with veterans. And when we sat there, one veteran pulled me aside and told me of how the governor's decision to fully fund SNAP was one that meant that there was now food in his fridge. And he said, I know we're not supposed to talk politics, but I didn't have anything in there because of this shutdown and because of the choice to remove SNAP benefits during that shutdown. And this meant the world to me. And I shared that with her. And I did so because it shows that when we take care of New Yorkers, it's not because we're looking to think about luxuries or things that they would like. We're talking about basic needs, for New Yorkers who are facing a hunger that we often haven't seen in this city before. And that's how we spoke about the affordability agenda. These are needs for New Yorkers, but also with Donald Trump and the presidency, as well as the administration in Washington, the need to protect people of this city from that administration when it's looking to punish and prosecute those same people. And that will look like partnership in terms of being in alignment when it comes to looking to protect New Yorkers on a day-to-day basis, looking to address their fears that so many have in even leaving their homes, and also looking to protect the New Yorkers with the least from the man with the most power from these funding cuts, because we have seen already the devastating impact they can have, and we need to ensure that we are fighting back against them while putting forward an affirmative vision.
Now, you've also been reaching out to governors in other states like California Governor Gavin Newsom, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, to get advice about President Donald Trump and how to deal with him. What have those conversations been like? What have they told you?
You know, I've appreciated those conversations as well as with Governor Wes Moore, as well as with mayors from across the country, because what we have the benefit of is learning from the examples we've seen elsewhere. And the threat to deploy the National Guard, it's not unique to New York. We've already seen it in other states. And in California, when the National Guard was deployed, the governor, the attorney general, and the mayor of LA came together to create a unified front and filed a lawsuit where a federal judge found in their favor that the deployment was illegal. And similarly, what New Yorkers will come to expect from myself, from Governor Hochul, from Attorney General Tish James, is a unified front. Because too often in politics, if the president is making a determination, it's seen as if it's him versus one other politician, or me, perhaps, as an example. It's really against the entirety of a city. And that means you have to showcase the city's leadership beyond just one position in how you fight back. That's what we're going to do.
You also said you plan to call President Donald Trump before you take office. Have you spoken with his team at all? Do they know that you're going to be calling?
I haven't spoken with his team as yet, but that is a call that I intend to make. And it's one that I intend to make because, as I've said over the campaign, I'm looking to represent all 8.5 million people who call this city home. And the presidency has an incredible impact on the people of this city. And if the president is looking to have a conversation about working together to benefit those New Yorkers, be it by lowering the cost of living or delivering cheaper groceries like he ran on, that's a conversation I'm willing to have. What I will also be willing to do time and time again is stand up for New Yorkers when the president comes after them. Because for too long, we haven't seen that kind of willingness from our own city hall. That's what we'll be delivering.
Now, also in your conversation with Hochul, you guys were discussing your child care plan, your free child care plan, and it seems like you guys were discussing something to be rolled out in fiscal year 2027. Why 2027?
So the governor has said that 2026 is the year of childcare. And we are currently in fiscal year 2026. We're going into fiscal year 2027. And we want to continue to deliver on the agenda that we ran on. And I'm excited when we're speaking with the governor because there's a recognition from both of us on the need for universal childcare and the fact that the absence of it is costing New Yorkers $22,500 a year on average. There are some New Yorkers paying more than that. And just yesterday, I was speaking with childcare providers, and they were telling me how difficult the city has often made it for them to just do their jobs and how that's pushing those same New Yorkers out of the city. I mean, if you look at the population of the city, 14% of New Yorkers are families with young children. But if you look at the population of those leaving New York City, 30% of them are families with young children, which shows that we are driving these families out of the city, and we need to start to make this the most affordable place to raise your kids.
Your plan to pay for the universal child care would be to tax millionaires and corporations, but Governor Hochul has said that she doesn't want to do that in an election year next year. So what are you guys discussing in terms of where this revenue is going to come from? You
know, I've said time and again that I think these are the two most straightforward ways to raise this revenue. One would increase personal income taxes by 2% on the top 1%. New Yorkers who make $1 million a year or more, like you said. The other would be to raise the top corporate tax rate to match that of New Jersey. And this together would raise $9 billion internal.
You want me to say something?
Raise an extra $1 billion. This would pay for the economic agenda and start to Trump-proof our city for exactly the things that we were just talking about. I've also said that if there are additional or alternate revenue sources that would pay for the same things, we would embrace them by all means, because the most important thing is funding these things. And I think with the governor, there's a clear alignment of the importance of delivering on universal childcare and on an affordability agenda. And now the work begins, even before we've been sworn in, on lining out when, how, but we always know it's for who, which is New Yorkers.
So you guys still trying to figure out exactly where that revenue is coming from. I felt like Hochul was sort of telling you, you know, while she agrees with some of your priorities, also at the same time, the state could be dealing with some federal funding cuts. But at the same time, it seemed also like a warning, saying, don't attack me right now. I'm in an election year. Let's work together, sort of behind the scenes at least. Don't blast me publicly. Did you kind of get that feeling from her in that meeting?
I would say that the feeling I've gotten from the governor in that meeting and in the meetings that we've had is one of actual partnership. And I wish it wasn't so remarkable to say, but sadly, in the history of New York City politics, between between mayors and governors, that partnership is not always present. And what I've come to appreciate is that it's sincere, it's committed, and so much of what we are talking about and have been talking about in our mayoral campaign has also been that which the governor has been speaking about in her position. It's affordability, it's safety, it's making this a livable place. And I really do see the possibility for us to both defend New Yorkers from a federal administration that has been looking to go after them time and time again, and start to deliver for those same New Yorkers from an affordability crisis that in some instances predates the presidential administration. Too often it's too easy to say that everything wrong is from one place. We also have a responsibility to deliver on that which we've allowed to persist for far too long.
I'm also going to ask you a question for the millionth time. Have
Please.
you met with NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch? When do you plan to meet with her? What more do you know about her staying on the job?
I haven't met with the commissioner since the election victory a week and a half ago, but I am going to be having a meeting with her shortly, and I look forward to that. And I look forward to it because my decision, which I made clear during the election, to retain her is one out of a shared vision for the importance of delivering public safety, and I look forward to doing that while also creating a Department of Community Safety.
Now, I know you apologized for past comments that you made to the NYPD, but how do you plan, once you get into office, to help alleviate some fears, as there was an uptick in the number of officers who put in their papers this last month? What are you going to do when you get in office to make sure that officers know that, you have their backs in this next year, 4 years?
The first thing to be clear about is a recognition of what those officers put on the line every single day when they put their uniforms on, and the importance that we ask them to do that which is possible. And what I mean by that is, over these last few years, we have asked police officers to start to perform almost every single responsibility we can think of to take on the breaking of a social safety net. In 2020, the police response time was less than 11 minutes. This year, it's closer to 16 minutes. And part of that is because we're now asking them to respond to 200,000 mental health calls. So one of my messages to those officers is that it is time for police officers to only be asked to do police work. And it's time to create a Department of Community Safety where we have mental health professionals being asked to do the work of the mental health crisis and the homelessness crisis. Because the crisis that we're seeing within the NYPD, a retention crisis, when I started running, when we started speaking at the beginning of this campaign, maybe about 200 officers were leaving every month. It grew to about 350 in the final months of the campaign. And we're seeing a lot of that has to do with quality of life. A lot of that has to do with forced overtime. We need to start to make this a sustainable job. That's the work I'll do.
Now, you and Mayor Eric Adams, your guys' team, have met to discuss the transition. You two haven't met yet. When do you plan to meet?
He's currently abroad. When he returns, we'll be having that meeting.
Yeah, so he is in Israel. He's leaving for Israel today. He seems to be sort of needling you a little bit in these final days and certain policy moves that he's been making. But he also invited the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to come to New York City on your first day when you're being sworn in. You've said in the past that you want to arrest Netanyahu for alleged war crimes. Do you plan to arrest Netanyahu on your first day?
So my plan on my first day is to become sworn in as the next mayor of New York City and start to deliver on an affordability agenda. I've said time and again, this is a city of international law, a city that believes in those values, and one that should honor the warrants that have been issued by the International Criminal Court, be it for Vladimir Putin or Benjamin Netanyahu. And I've also said that, unlike Donald Trump, I'm not going to create my own set of laws. And what that means is exhausting every single legal option. Now, the mayor is free to travel where he would like to spend the final weeks and months of his administration, and he's free to speak to whomever he would like to. My focus is on actually delivering for New Yorkers. That's what I'm going to be doing.
And speaking of your inauguration, do you know where you're going to do it yet?
I do not. I do not. But as soon as I do, I'll be sure to let you know.
And you've also not said yet if you plan to live in Gracie Mansion. Have you decided?
I haven't decided that as yet either, but these are decisions that I'll be making over the next, I think it's 48 days of a transition.
And last question for you. More than 50,000 people have applied to be a part of your administration. What's your advice for people who maybe want their resume to rise to the top?
Well, I think the first thing is I'm so excited to see this number, because what we've been hearing time and time again with the close to 20,000 vacancies we have in city government is that there just isn't the interest in public service. There isn't the interest in delivering within city government any longer. And what we've shown actually is that when you have a directive where City Hall becomes a place of supporting New Yorkers as opposed to a place of scandal that New Yorkers read about in the papers every day, you can see now more than 50,000 people applying. And that just shows the excitement in this moment on delivering on an affordability agenda. And my recommendation to those applying is that it doesn't matter who you know, it matters the work that you do. So I appreciate the resumes that are coming in, the interest that's coming in, because that is what we're looking to build an administration of. It's going to be excellence and it's going to be capability, and that's what we're starting to do already.
Well, thank you so much for making time to come on here. I know you have a very busy next 50 days, so thank you so much, Mayor-elect. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Pleasure.
Joining
Very interesting conversation there. Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani going one-on-one with our Morgan McKay for the first time since he won the mayoral election. 48 days until his inauguration day, January 1st, 2026. And it was a really interesting conversation that he had with Morgan, where he talked about his transition, what that looks like, how he's going to be able to fund a lot of the campaign promises that he made, like universal childcare, and how he's looking for alternate sources of revenue to fund big endeavors like that. He talked about Donald Trump, whether he's talked to him, Governor Hochul, how they're working together during this transition, as well as the NYPD. And that's a big question mark, too, of what that meeting is going to look like when he meets with Commissioner Tisch. So we've got a lot to talk about. We're going to break this all down after the break, but we're going to break it down. We've got Trip Yang, our political expert, standing by. So stay with us. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Newsroom Live. I'm Natasha Verma. We're taking a live look outside, different shots of New York City on a very cold Friday night. 48 degrees out there. Feels like temperatures are something like 40 degrees. We have wind, we have rain on the way. It's going to be a very chilly weekend. Liv Johnson's going to join us later and give us a full weekend forecast. Before we went on break, you saw this one-on-one interview between Mayor-elect Zoran Mamdani and Morgan McKay, breaking down how his transition is going, how he's going to make good on a lot of his campaign promises, and just seeing where he's at, getting the pulse of where he's at right now. 48 days until Inauguration Day, January 1st, 2026. It's going to be a historic one as well. I want to bring in our political expert, Trip Yang, to break this all down. Trip, how's it going? Thanks for joining me.
Thank you. There's no place I'd rather be on a Friday night than to be talking politics with the award-winning Natasha Verma.
You're so sweet. I'm flattered. It's so great to have you here. Okay, so we both watched that interview that Morgan did with Mayor-elect Mamdani, and he went over a wide range of things. She asked him about the transition, how it's going, and he talked about how he's working with Governor Hochul. I mean, historically, how has the relationship been between a New York City mayor and the governor of New York?
Yeah, so historically, a mayor of New York and a governor of New York have often had some petty personal rivalries. such as Mayor de Blasio and Governor Cuomo from a decade ago, those two had a really ugly rivalry that seemed to hurt the shared constituents of New York. But it looks like Zohran Mamdani and Governor Hochul have an actual partnership. That's what they both reference repeatedly, an actual partnership. And it looks like through these conversations, an immediate area of shared priorities is universal childcare, or at the very least, expanded childcare to very much help working and middle-class New York families.
Right, yeah, and they're going to need this partnership because we've already been hearing from the president, Donald Trump, about wanting to put up some roadblocks in a lot of these initiatives that they're both looking to put forward. So let's talk about universal childcare. So he says that 2027 is the goal. From where you sit, is that realistic?
So I'll say this. It often feels impossible until it is done. And that is something from Zohran Mamdani's June Democratic primary speech, where he toppled the Cuomo dynasty in a massive upset. Look, the reality is a mayor in his first term often gets a lot of leeway from state government that funds his priorities. Look no further than in 2014 when Bill de Blasio was in his first term as mayor. He did not have a great relationship with then Governor Cuomo, but the state of New York still funded de Blasio's signature initiative in de Blasio's first year, which was UPK, Universal Pre-K. That is still Bill de Blasio's defining accomplishment as mayor. The state found a way to fund it, even without taxing the wealthy back then in 2014, which is what de Blasio campaigned on. The parallels are significant here in 2026 because Mamdani's, one of his signature priorities is universal childcare. Now, the governor has had some tepid response in terms of, do we really want the state to raise tax on the wealthy to fund it? I do expect some level of state funding for expanded childcare. That is something that Mayor Zohran Mamdani at that point can claim as a win, an immediate win. And that is something, quite frankly, Governor Hochul is in a re-election year for herself in 2026. She can claim this as a win as well.
You know, Mamdani said that he's open to alternate revenue sources. Can you translate that for us?
Yeah.
What he might be talking about?
Right. So this is really Zohran, who campaigned as an unapologetic progressive, really switching into governing mode. And this is smart and savvy. During the campaign trail, he talked about really paying for universal childcare through taxing the wealthy. Well, look, the governors had mixed results. At the end of the day, it's about getting the results, which is more childcare for more New York families. This is essentially Zohran saying, I don't fully control all of the mechanisms, and that's normal, because here in New York, Albany state government, the governor's office, often provides much of the funding for these New York City initiatives. It's essentially Zohran saying the result is what matters, more so than the mechanism.
It's fascinating. The first 100 days are going to be really important to watch as well. What are you looking for? You know, as a political expert, you've been following this for so many years. I mean, what are you looking for in those first 100 days?
Absolutely. Look, I've done over 50 campaigns professionally here in New York. It's extremely exciting to have a new mayor. It is, as Mamdani would say, a new era. So what you're looking for is really, can Mamdani get some immediate wins from state government? Universal childcare is one of them. He has talked about fast and free buses. He has talked about building more deeply affordable housing. I'm also looking for his relationship with the city council and the next speaker of the city council. That is going to be his governing partner at the city level. Can they make a lot of progress on the city budget in these initial couple months of the Mamdani administration? And of course, we have to talk about national politics as well.
Yeah.
Zohran Mamdani is a lightning rod. He has, I mean this, I like him, so I mean this in a positive way. He has generated the enthusiasm of tens of thousands of New Yorkers, brought fresh new energy into the Democratic Party. However, there's going to be some national Republicans that are going to try to use him as a tool to hit national Democrats in the 2026 fight for control of Congress. In my opinion, if Mayor Mamdani can get some immediate wins that address affordability concerns for New York, which is what he campaigned on, he actually could be a massive help to 2026 Democrats as the Democratic Party fights to regain control of Congress.
Yeah. It's really interesting. You kind of see where the Democratic Party has been shifting in terms of who they're backing too. I mean, he is a Democratic socialist. Do you think that that's something that is that like local to New York City, or do you think that's something that we're seeing a trend across the country?
Yeah. Well, 2026 will be the big proving ground for it. Here in 2025 in New York City, voters really show that they don't really care what you call yourself. A Democratic socialist, progressive, a moderate, conservative.
Yeah, they don't seem too afraid of that socialist term. At least the younger voters don't seem to be as afraid of it.
I'll say this. If you look at polling and you look at Democrats under the age of 30, more of them identify as socialist than not identifying as socialist.
It's fascinating.
So in some ways, culture is changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll also say this briefly, Natasha. When you look at the Democratic Party as a whole, in the last 10 years, the two most popular figures nationally for Democrats have been Barack Obama and Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is a Democratic socialist. Barack Obama is not. Two very, very different type of political leaders. What it really says is increasingly Americans, especially young Americans, they don't care so much about labels. It's, can you understand my concerns? Can you hear me? And can you help deliver for my needs?
We're starting to see a lot of conservatives. Elise Stefanik threw her hat in the ring for New York governor. Governor Hochul will be running too for governor. Is anything her support for Mamdani and any initiatives that she's supporting him on, could that help or hurt her in her race?
I'll say this. New York City is the majority of the state in a Democratic primary. It's a large plurality of the state in a general election. So in a primary, Governor Hochul actually has a primary challenge from a progressive alternative. And Mamdani's support, or at the very least partnership, actually helps Governor Hochul because Mamdani is perceived as more progressive than her, and New York City is such a large part of the state. Now, in the general election, New York State Republicans are going to try to use Mamdani's Democratic socialist beliefs to try to hurt Governor Hochul. I'll say this, again, if Mamdani can deliver and work with state government on priorities such as childcare and get them accomplished, he may actually be a benefit in a general election for New York State governor.
Very interesting. I do want to talk about the NYPD because he did talk about that. You know, Morgan mentioned that some of the officers are leaving since his, election. What's your take on that? Do you think we'll be seeing him make good on his decision to keep Jessica Tisch on as commissioner of the NYPD?
Zohran Mamdani from the start has been really effective in terms of pivoting towards governing. In the primary, he explicitly stated he would not defund the police. He would not reduce the headcount of uniformed police officers. Very, very smart. I believe that helped neutralize attacks on him in a Democratic primary when he was the underdog. In the general election these past couple months, when he is the overwhelming favorite, he went further. He went on, a conservative TV show and said to the rank and file police officers, if my past comments have offended you, I apologize directly to you. That was really smart. It showed savviness, strategery. A lot of politicians in this business, Natasha, simply get too stubborn and they don't want to walk back from past comments. Zohran immediately pivoted towards governing. A final step was recently announcing that he would seek to retain Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch, who has been regarded as someone who's rooted out a lot of the corruption of the NYPD during the Eric Adams years. So I do believe that Mamdani, on this issue of public safety, has been very smart. Time will tell if he and the NYPD have a strong relationship.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that develops. I did find this interesting that he didn't answer Morgan's question about Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, and if Mayor Adams if he's going to show up to the inauguration, would he arrest him, which is something that Mamdani has said in the past. What did you take away from all that?
My big takeaway here is that Eric Adams, despite being a 65-year-old man, remains a diva at heart. For him,
he's really stirring the pot. Yeah,
he is a trouble. There is called good trouble in politics. Congressman John Lewis. There is bad trouble. Eric Adams. All right, Eric Adams is bad trouble. He is not going to be the mayor anymore come January 1st. What prerogative does he have to invite a head of state from another country to New York City? Look, to answer your question more directly, it is smart, again, for Mayor-elect Mamdani to pivot towards governing. A lot of times in the campaign, you want to speak in terms of emotion, what is going to rile up some of your strongest supporters. I understand where Zoran is coming from in terms of his beliefs on this issue. When you pivot to governing, let's focus on the immediate affordability concerns of New Yorkers. Mamdani is extremely disciplined when it comes to that. It was a very smart way to answer the question.
But don't you think, because he did say that, you know, it's important to observe active warrants against, you know, sitting heads of states, and then he didn't really answer it. I mean, he did talk about wanting, he said if Netanyahu ever came to New York City, I would arrest him, and then he's not answering that. I did find that to be substantial.
It is fair for folks to really observe that part of the interaction. But I'll say this, in our business and politics, a lot of times you campaign in poetry, and when you govern, you need to govern in prose. And so when you are in governing mode, you may have 1,000 to-do items on your desk every day. Focus on the main priorities. It sounds like he's focusing, based on that excellent interview with Fox 5's own Morgan McKay, Politics Unusual, my favorite new show 2025, to focus on policies such as universal childcare and other items that actually address the affordability crisis for New Yorkers. Let's focus on that. It's a smart way to think.
I want to zoom out a little bit. We've been talking about New York City and talk more national. I mean, we just averted a big crisis this week. The government shut down. The government finally reopened. Senate-backed bill went through the House. President Trump signed it. But don't you think that this is going to kick the can down the road to January 30th when we have to revisit a lot of the issues that brought us to this point to begin with?
So I'll say this. Donald Trump, who essentially runs congressional Republicans at this point, they essentially did not want to fund the ACA, Affordable Care Act, some may call it Obamacare, tax subsidies that actually keep 5 million Americans on their health care coverage. Now, the House Democratic Caucus, led by Brooklyn's very own leader, Hakeem Jeffries, has said, this is our line in the sand. I know there are some independent 8 Senate Democrats who took a different position on this that led us to a point where there's no longer a government shutdown.
Right.
At the end of the day, if congressional Republicans go back to the table, if their supervisor, President Donald Trump, allows them to go back to the table and negotiate with House and Senate Democrats on extending the Obamacare tax subsidies, which once again have 5 million Americans, allow them to keep their health care insurance, as well as is deeply popular with the American people, then we wouldn't have this issue. But President Donald Trump has to make the decision here.
Yeah, we saw what happened in the New Jersey gubernatorial race. I mean, the government shutdown had an impact on that race, too. We saw it firsthand. It is good news that the government is back open. We did see, though, a divide in the Democratic Party with a lot of Democrats coming out calling for Chuck Schumer to resign. What did you make of that?
I'll say this. When Donald Trump is in office, Democratic activism surges. Democratic small donors go up. Democrats win a lot of local elections. The Democratic Party did extremely well, as you pointed out, Natasha, in New Jersey, in Virginia. States that were thought of to be competitive were actually blowouts for the Democratic Party. Now, I'll also say this. Sometimes there is a difference in thinking. There's a difference in how Democrats perceive the Democratic Party should be in opposition, principled opposition to Donald Trump's government. There are many who think that, quite frankly, they would have had a different position from Leader Schumer, and that is okay. It is okay to have that type of healthy disagreement within your party. At the end of the day, come 2026, I believe that Democrats will be united, which is in their shared goal, in our shared goal, because I am a lifelong Democrat, of retaking the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate and actually provide checks and balances on the Trump administration.
Very interesting take. Trip Yang, thank you for joining me. I hope you have some better Friday night plans in place.
Well, it'll be my birthday tomorrow, so tomorrow I'll be having fun.
Happy early birthday.
Well, thank you so much. You're the first person to wish me that.
Oh my gosh.
You're the best.
You're the best. All right, Trip, it's great to see you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will be back right after this break. Welcome back to Newsroom Live. I'm Natasha Verma. We're taking a live look outside. Some nice pictures of New York City on a very cold Friday night. 48 degrees out there. It feels like temperatures are much lower, and it's just going to get colder as the weekend progresses. All right, so we heard from Trip Yang about Morgan's interview with Zohran Mamdani over the last couple of segments that we've had. So now someone who I sat down with on my latest episode of Talking with Natasha was former FDNY Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh, because I wanted to get her take on Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani, because she's someone who knows a lot about transitions, mayoral transitions. She was brought in by the Bill de Blasio administration in 2014 to the FDNY, and then when Mayor Eric Adams became mayor, she survived that transition, and he actually promoted her to commissioner of the FDNY. She became the first female to lead 17,000 employees in the FDNY's 157-year history, the first woman to ever lead. So she has a really good take on Zohran Mamdani and things that she'll be looking for, some advice for him during this transition period, as well as what's next for her, and if she got a call from Mamdani, and what she would say if he called her to come be part of his administration. So Talking with Natasha, that aired earlier this week, and here's a clip from it. Take a listen. We just had a huge election here in New York City. Zohran Mamdani is the mayor. How would you describe this moment that we are in right now in the city?
Well, I would describe it as deeply hopeful. I think some people would say it's scary. I would not agree, but I'd also say I don't find almost anything scary. I just don't believe in that. I think that's like our city is tougher than that. You know, it doesn't mean I'm putting aside some feelings people have about the nervousness of change or even what they hear from other people. But often when people tell me that they're scared in a moment, I ask them to actually like step off of social media and see if they still feel that way when they talk to real people. Because my family runs like absolutely the political gamut in every way. Mostly very conservative, but also just the whole spectrum. Yeah. And we have great relationships, and you don't hear the kind of things you hear online coming from them. So I think I'm able to kind of make that separation, which is, I don't actually think we're in a scary time. I think that the noise can be overwhelming and actually like overwhelm our nervous systems. But I actually think it's hopeful. I mean, anytime you get a new start, it's hopeful. Yeah. What you actually, you know, to me, what makes me most nervous is it a new start, right? Like, what will we really be able to do? What will our city look like in 5 years? To me, I think about, it's just probably like a sign of the job I used to have. Like, how do we operationalize hope? I know that sounds crazy, but like, what does it actually mean?
That's a great way to put it. How do you operationally do that when you're trying to see hope actually come into fruition, come into action? You survived 2 administrations. You came in, de Blasio brought you in 2014, and then when Mayor Adams came in, you were actually promoted, which is rare, but it's incredible that you were promoted. So you have seen transitions over 2 administrations. What's your advice for Mr. Mamdani and his team on transitioning?
I mean, a few things. Don't let people talk you out of the hope. They will. When you go through transitions, you talk to a lot of people who want to say something along the lines of, we've tried it before, kid, and it won't work. But the thing about new things is the only way you actually achieve them is to dream of something nobody's ever seen before and then try to do it. And you won't achieve it a lot. I mean, that's part of like being hopeful actually is about trying and failing and being okay with that. It doesn't mean you get everything, but I actually can't imagine a thing that we've done in like the world that's new and different, where it wasn't someone kind of like taking a gamble and saying like, I imagine this new version of this thing and I'm just going to hope that I can achieve it. And I'm going to try to maybe like sell other people on the idea that it can be done. So I think, you know, don't actually let people talk you out of that. But then a lot of it really is about running the city. I mean, that's the thing about this city that the reason I love government, but I think is maybe unknown to people. I don't actually think you can run government in a particularly ideological way. It is just a huge, like, behemoth of trains running on time, you know? So you have to balance, like, the couple of initiatives that you want to do that are about your legacy and hope and, like, not lose the faith there. But you have to balance that with the fact that, like, government just needs to run and it needs to work. And you need to go to a bunch of competent people who simply believe in running things well to do it.
Right. So he's brought in a couple of members on his new staff. Yeah. Would you be interested in working in the administration?
I am not, but that is not about our mayor-elect. I think that a new chapter is calling to me. And I don't sort of know how to explain that, but I will say in my life, I've always taken these leaps that people thought were crazy because it called to me. And like going to the fire department was one of those. You know, people thought you've worked in campaigns and you're going to this place that seems not only so different, it's so operational, it seems so different than City Hall in so many ways. And I just knew like there's something about it that is calling to me. Like it's an interesting place, it's a good place, a place that needed some help at the time. And I don't think I was wrong about that. And so the fact that life feels like it's calling me, I think more to figure out how to like talk about my story, to I think lift up like other women's stories and in interesting and creative ways, like to say like just how does it feel, like going back to the music, right?
Yeah.
And like who are we as like just humans in this world, especially when things are so scary and disconnected. It actually just feels like the way I can best help like him and the city and women.
Yeah.
And so that's why, for me, I feel a different calling at this point.
So you don't think you'd ever go back into government?
Oh, I wouldn't say I would never go back. I loved government, and I think probably there's another chapter in it for me someday. I just think it's not now.
Yeah.
I think it's, you know, a few years down the road.
So you are teaching at NYU, and you're also at the Y, and you're doing a lot of great works. You're teaching women about leadership, and who better to talk about being a leader than you, having led the FDNY, first woman in 150 years. How did you prepare for that role in terms of being a leader?
That's a great question. I mean, no one can ever really prepare. I think I'd say that. I think I was as prepared as you could be, actually. And I say that in two forms, like just the sheer amount of time I spent in the agency trying to learn things. I never thought I'd be commissioner, but I was like hungry for information and to know the place well and to understand it and to be well versed on it. And so I was like a sponge. I would follow anyone anywhere and learn anything from anyone. There were people who walked me through the manuals that probationary firefighters get when they start, and people who let me go on ride-alongs, and Commissioner Nigro let me follow him around. So it was like a literal hunger for information.
Yeah.
But I also, like, I went back to school and I took classes myself on leadership. I forced myself to start public speaking, which at the time was like mortifying to me. I never thought it was actually for that job. I just wanted to understand how people lead. I wanted to understand how we can do better, you know, like how do we run city government better? So I was in many ways, I think I did as much preparation as you could do. And I'd still tell you, like, it was just hard and it was interesting. And there were a whole bunch of things I didn't expect, no matter how hard I studied.
It's a very male-dominated department.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that?
I think, you know, one question would be, like, did I do it right? Right. And I think you'll never know the answer to that. When you're first, there's 100 versions of being that person and you just have to pick one. And that's actually hard. I think some of it I have realized in the time since I've been away, I have so much in common with the fire department. It's funny to me now that people looked at me as so different. My family is exactly like the fire department. It's like indistinguishable. And
in what ways?
I mean, they're largely male. They are largely tough and loud and loving and opinionated, and they're largely blue collar. You know, my mom's from Flint, Michigan. That's where I spent my formative years and my summers growing up. And so, like, the idea that good unionized work is not only important, but of what happens when it leaves and how that impacts men. Because in my family, it was the men that had the jobs in the plants and lost them and had to regroup, was really formative and is so familiar to me in the fire department. Like, I don't feel out of place there ever. Strange as that may sound.
So why did you leave?
It was just time. It was, I mean, as you said, I think like the thing I've spoken about least or is least understood about me is I started in 14 and I didn't think this was my path and I never slowed down.
Yeah.
Often, literally, I mean, especially in those last 5 years with COVID and everything, I didn't like take a vacation. I didn't turn my phone off. I kept thinking I was almost done because I didn't think that the commissioner job was one that I was going to do. And so I kept running at it as though it was the last mile of the race, and it kept turning out it was the first mile of the race. And so I knew I had a lot of conundrums with myself even about taking it. And even though I probably knew I would never say no because I had this calling, I just knew I couldn't keep going forever. And it was I really feel like I got so many signs that it was time to go when I did.
All right, you're listening to a clip from my recent podcast with former FDNY Commissioner Laura Kavanaugh. Just a little bit of that clip. We talked for about 30 minutes, so you can go see our full interview on the Fox 5 New York YouTube page and drop a comment. Let me know what you think. We're going to take a quick break, and when we return, we're going to talk to Duarte Geraldino, Fox 5 reporter, about Thanksgiving and a really head scratcher of a question, which is, would you ask your guests to pay to attend your Thanksgiving dinner? We're going to break it down after the break. Welcome back to Newsroom Live. I'm Natasha Verma as we take a live look outside at the skyline of New York City. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. We're going to see our friends and family reunions. And a big question that's been brewing online is, would you charge your friends and family, your guests, to attend your Thanksgiving dinner? So this question came up today during our 3 o'clock meeting where we set the stories for our 10 p.m. show. Everyone was talking about it. And so Duarte Geraldino has been assigned this story. Duarte, you hit the streets, you've been looking. So you asked this question of people. What did they have to say?
Everybody was mixed about this, by the way. So you called me right in the middle of my workday. I'm over here in the live truck putting this thing together.
You're in the live truck.
I'm in the live truck at a supermarket in the Kingsbridge section of the Bronx, where I've been speaking to people who, by the way, are already shopping because they want those deals. They don't want to wait for the last minute to miss ingredients. And all of them say the same thing. This is a pricey meal.
Yeah.
Now, on a national level, everyone says you can feed 10 people for about 80 to 95 bucks. But a lot of people here are saying that's just not the case, that they're looking on average of spending between about $200 to $250 for their Thanksgiving meal. And some of them are saying, look, even if you don't want to give me money, at least help me at the supermarket. Just come with me to the supermarket so we can all buy this thing together. Others are saying they would be completely embarrassed if, as they're welcoming someone into their house, they have their hand out. They say, we're just not at all. But still, you know, the facts tell a story of food prices going up, rent that is so high, and obviously that's the first thing you have to pay, your rent or your mortgage. And then whatever you have left, that's what you're expected to host this event for, and it can add up to quite a bit of money.
Yeah, it can get costly, but it also begs the question of, like, then why even go to the dinner? Why even have the dinner? If it's costing you so much money, can you find different ways around it? So maybe if you could back up a little and give us the origin story of where this question first came from and why it got people talking.
Okay, so the Washington Post had a column where they were talking about this idea. If prices are so high, is it okay, because they got a couple of questions, for people to charge to offset the cost of these meals? And then there were radio shows that were talking about this as well, and then the Reddit stream. Everyone was talking about this issue because it's sort of taboo. I mean, in the name, Thanksgiving, it suggests that you are giving
Right.
and not, charging.
Taking.
Thank you for coming to pay me. So, I mean, a lot of people are talking about it because the reality is one thing. And now, again, going back to this figure, 88 to 95 bucks to feed 10 people. But, depending on your culture and how you add your special stuff to this holiday, it can be much more expensive. So, for example, oxtails, which I love and so many people in New York love, they're very expensive, but they're an integral part of Thanksgiving. And then there are people who are pescatarians, who want fish. All these prices are going up, and it's not going to be the normal price. So people are saying, oh, okay, what do we do? Now, I met people who say what we do is we have co-hosts. I don't host it alone, right? They have 2, 3, 4 people who are hosting, and then they divide the cost by 4. But actually going that extra step and saying, okay, I've calculated everything, and your share of your plate is $10. People were like, oh my God.
It's petty. I find it to be petty. It's interesting. This kind of could be seen as a modern potluck because, you think of a potluck where everyone brings in their own food. In a way, would you call this a modern potluck?
Yes, and that's what people are saying. It's the modern potluck, far more efficient because you also have quality control. If you're bringing the macaroni and cheese, someone's bringing this, all that. There may be a better cook amongst the mix, and then everyone is leaving that one dish on the table. Oh, they made that walnut salad with, I don't know, Jell-O. They just the thought about it, right? Because somebody's going to bring that over. So they're saying if you just give cash, that's your potluck. You don't got to worry about the time it took you, where you bought your ingredients, whether it was late dated. And so therefore it's easier. And then come on, think about it, Natasha. If you ever been invited to a potluck, how much do you spend preparing that one dish? Is it likely more than $10?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what they've asked me to make. I mean, everyone knows that I got to keep it really simple. I usually say, can I bring like chips? Can I bring the wine? I keep it like very simple, but I mean, it doesn't get too expensive.
Well, you hit on something, by the way. So maybe not too expensive for some people, but what ends up happening, because at this point in our economic life, a lot of people are saying, well, why don't we just simplify Thanksgiving, right? But if you feel that the price of admission to a party is a bottle of wine, someone's bringing this and that, then you have all this food, all this wine, and people are saying, well, I'm not going to drink that wine when you leave. It's just going to sit there for the next event, which has its value. But they're saying, why don't we reduce it all? And I'm playing devil's advocate over here because just imagine if you didn't buy that $15 to $20 bottle of wine and you offered some cash. Some people would say
they take the cash.
By reducing it to cash, it's almost offensively small, right?
Yeah.
So they were saying, well, if I was going to contribute, I would contribute more than $10 because then I would seem cheap, right? Like the price of a home cooked meal is, you can't be quantified, right?
I think it's really interesting, like even the fact that we're having this conversation or that we are entertaining this question and it's getting mixed reaction from people kind of shows this state of consumers in America who feel like, prices are too expensive and you want to be part of these social gatherings, but it gets expensive.
It's so much a marker of the season, right? I can't imagine going through a year without Thanksgiving and going through that wonderful feeling of fellowship and family in a space where everyone is enjoying the food, but it costs so much.
Yeah.
Typically, I know what the average is, when I host a Thanksgiving, but not as many as 10 people, I mean, it's a couple of $100 at the end of the event. And I can imagine that that's tough to swallow for a lot of folks.
Yeah. Well, we've got about a minute or so left, and you're working on a story for the 10 o'clock news. You're in the live truck putting it all together. Tell us a little bit more of what people can expect coming up at 10.
You are going to meet some characters, people who fully admit, who say, okay, you know there's going to be a family member who's going to try to get out of paying for something, who's going to say, I'm going to bring this, I'm going to bring that, and, oh, I forgot, I didn't want to be late, and I just didn't put my part in, right? You're going to meet those people who say, this is a reality. We deal with this every year, but it's about coming together as a family, even if they know some family members are not going to give their part. And while they say cash would be easier because it's quantifiable, they would not do it. And we're also going to go into some data to talk about, why this topic is coming up. And we are in the Bronx for a particular reason. This is the most food insecure borough in the city. And
point.
With the SNAP delays, it's been really, really tough. And so what you have right now is suddenly when everyone gets their SNAP payments, there's going to be a little bit of a rush to the supermarkets to make up for lost time and also to prepare. So all those things. We're talking about not only prices up, but also supply, right? People are going to gobble up what they didn't before. And so that's one of the big concerns. And you're going to be hearing about that.
I can't wait. Sounds good. Duarte, as always, thank you so much. I'm going to see you in an hour or so. See you very soon.
All right. See you soon.
All right. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I got to go get ready to anchor the 10 o'clock news, and then I'll see you then with Steve Lacey. Thank you for joining me and spending part of your Friday night. Until next time.
Thanks for watching Fox 5's Newsroom Live. We're now joining Live Now's non-stop stream of live and breaking news.
The country, and we have to test. Other countries are not exploiting workers. In the last election, do you think you'll get on the road for the next election? Oh yeah, I'll be helping people. Yeah. Okay. I'll be on the road helping people. It's very important. The midterms are very important. And again, I think we should terminate the filibuster. Republicans should terminate the filibuster. The Democrats would do it immediately if they ever got power. And without Manchin and Sinema, they would have done it the last.
Would you be open to endorsing someone primarying Marjorie Taylor Greene given her latest statements?
Well, it depends on who runs against her. I mean, I'm no longer much of a fan because I disagree with her policy. When she said that, going to foreign countries, bringing back trillions of dollars is not important. Do you think I want to go and be on an airplane for 20 hours? Some of you were with me. 22 hours to be exact, travel and then get off and make a speech and get people to invest hundreds of billions of dollars in our country. I'd rather do it without having to go, but if you didn't go, you wouldn't be able to have that kind of result. As an example, Malaysia. If you look at Thailand, I stopped a war in Thailand and Cambodia. If I didn't go to that region, I probably wouldn't have been able to stop that war. That war would have been very costly in terms of lives, but even costly in terms of us.
Are you meeting with Indiana lawmakers next week? Are you meeting with lawmakers from Indiana next week on
Not that I know of. I might be. I don't know. They will. I guess they're making a decision as to whether or not they want to gain for the Republican Party one or two more. By the way, I will say this. I heard one or two more seats. I heard that a big lawsuit will be taking place, will be taking place concerning the California hoax, where they're trying to get 5 more seats. And California is one of the most dishonest elections ever. They send out tens of millions of ballots to people all over the place. Many of those people get 2 and 3 ballots, and they come back. California is a disgrace on voting. And they're doing something that is very illegal. So we are or will be suing California on the 5 seats.
Department of Justice will be?
The Department of Justice, yes. Being headed by the Department of Justice.
You're meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince next week.
More than meeting, we're honoring Saudi Arabia, the Crown Prince, yes.
One of your goals for the meeting, have you decided whether to sell F-35 fighter jets to Saudi Arabia? Are you going to do that?
Well, they want to buy a lot of jets. We make the best jets, we make the best missiles. You saw that when we took out the nuclear capability of Iran. No, for 22 years they wanted to do that. No president had the guts to do it. We did it, and Iran is a different place. By the way, Iran wants to negotiate a deal too. Everybody wants to negotiate with us now. If we didn't have military strength, if we didn't rebuild our military in my first term, and now we continue to do it, Biden dissipated it by giving a chunk to the Taliban. Not a good idea. But you know what? The good news is it was a lot, but relatively very little.
So yes to the jets, or you're not sure yet?
looking at that. They've asked me to look at it. They want to buy a lot of 35, but they want to buy actually more than that fighter jets, yeah.
Will the Abraham Accords be a part of that conversation, perhaps getting
what?
The Abraham Accords, getting Saudi Arabia?
And the Abraham Accords will be a part. We're going to be discussing. I hope that Saudi Arabia will be going into the Abraham Accords fairly shortly. We've had tremendous interest in the Abraham Accords since we put Iran out of business. Okay? Thank you much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good to see you.
You were just listening to President Trump speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One on his way to Palm Beach, Florida. He has arrived there. We watched him get off the plane. A lot of topics discussed during that meeting with reporters. He addressed terminating the filibuster, the Epstein files, nuclear testing. President Trump there saying the U.S. has more nuclear than any other country, so they must be tested. He also touched on Marjorie Taylor Greene. We'll have more on those comments coming up. And he also spoke about the BBC situation. BBC tweeting this out. They say U.S. President Trump says he will sue BBC for at least $1 billion over Panorama edit, despite apology. Again, BBC has already apologized for their edit of President Trump's speech from October 6th. Another topic, again, that he talked about was Marjorie Taylor Greene. We're going to have more on those comments. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi. President Trump just landing in Palm Beach, Florida in the last hour. He spoke to reporters aboard Air Force One. We just played that out for you. We're also now seeing President Trump with a new post on Truth Social saying that he is withdrawing his support and endorsement of Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene of the great state of Georgia. He says, over the past few weeks, despite my creating record achievements for our country, including a total and complete victory on the shutdown, closed borders, low taxes, no men in women's sports or transgender for everyone, ending DEI, stopping Biden's record-setting inflation, biggest regulation cuts in history, stopping 8 wars, rebuilding our military, being respected by every country in the world, as opposed to being a laughingstock that we were just 12 months ago, having trillions of dollars, record-setting, invested in the USA, and having created the hottest country anywhere in the world, from being a dead country just 12 months ago, he says, and so much more. He says, all I see is wacky Marjorie do is complain, complain, complain. And the rest of his tweet here, it seemed to all begin when I sent her a poll stating that she should not run for senator or governor. She was at 12% and didn't have a chance, unless, of course, she had my endorsement, which she wasn't about to get. He says she has told many people that she is upset that I don't return her phone calls anymore, but with 219 congressmen and women, 53 U.S. senators, 24 cabinet members, almost 200 countries, and an otherwise normal life to lead, I can't take a ranting lunatic's call every day, says Trump. He goes on to say, I understand that wonderful conservative people are thinking about primarying Marjorie in her district of Georgia, that they too are fed up with her and her antics. And if the right person runs, they will have my complete and unyielding support. She has gone far left, even doing The View with their low IQ Republican hating anchors, he says. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Make America great again. So again, President Trump tonight saying he is withdrawing his support for Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. And that coming in right after he spoke to reporters about this aboard Air Force One. We're going to take one more break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi. Earlier today, the U.S. and Russia held a discussion discussing sanctions against the country of Yemen. Let's listen to those discussions.
Today's resolution to renew the Yemen sanctions regime and the mandate of the panel of experts. We believe these measures remain essential to deterring threats to peace and stability in Yemen and the broader region. The panel's work is critical to exposing violations of the arms embargo and to holding those responsible for fueling the conflict to account. We welcome the new requirements for the panel to report on the flow of dual-use components and precursor chemicals that enable the Houthis' weapons program. These materials, often sourced from outside Yemen, have allowed the Houthis to develop increasingly sophisticated drones and missiles, threatening international shipping and the safety of civilians across the region. The panel's advice on how to better control these flows, including what should be restricted by UN member states, will be vital to strengthening the arms embargo and protecting global commerce. We support the resolution's call for the panel to provide recommendations on improving maritime interdictions as well. The Houthis' attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea and Gulf of Aden have endangered lives and disrupted international